Monday. Let me see. I'm sorry. I'm just let me orient myself with my notes. Thank you, everybody. It's been like, I feel like it's been a whirlwind of like action and reviewing and trying to keep everything straight with all the changes that are going on. So I appreciate everybody's time and input into this process because I know it's a lot of stuff to do. Okay. So I think first off, I want to just ping everybody to remind you that there are a couple of things that we'll need for getting the application kind of up and running. And the first one of those things is to get your high school class of records created in the system. Without that, the what high school do you go to list cannot be populated, and we won't be able to kind of assign students to the right high schools when they get their when they try to get their applications up and running. So that's super important for everyone to do. So I just wanted to go ahead quickly to remind everybody on the process for that. I haven't updated the grid to do that yet, but I'll put that on Maite's to-do list when she gets in tomorrow to prioritize that for you, but I'll just show you how to do that just manually on the individual records itself. Okay. So if you go ahead and just search for whatever school, let's just grab a KIPP school here. Oh, wait, that's not what we want. Okay, so we're in your high school account. We're going to scroll down to the class of section here. All you need to do is click new high school class of record. Name it whatever you want. That'll change automatically. And then for the graduation date, this is the target graduation date for this class. So we're in so yeah, it would be June of 2022. Note whether or not it's a target school and whatever their summer search cohort status is. Is this a field that's currently still actively being used? I don't
yes.
recall. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
This is your school, right, Tolu? I don't remember.
Yes.
Is this yes or no? I'm creating one for you on the file. It is? Okay. And then those
Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So these are the only things that you need to input just for this, and then click save. If you want to put in your projections already in your nomination projections and all that kind of stuff, you can, but it's not required. The ones that are highlighted in red are the only ones you need to do. So again, just a reminder for the name, if you're doing this manually, you can type in whatever, it'll automatically update for you. The graduation date is just June in 2022, whatever day is fine. And then update your target school status and then your summer search cohort status, and then click save. And then it's all set. So just go through and do that for all the schools you'll be doing your presentations for that you're going to be recruiting from this year. And once all those have been created, then I can pull that into form assembly so that drop-down list of what high school do you attend can be populated. Okay. I want to give you all a deadline that works within whatever that works for all of you. And it's kind of hard for me to set that because I don't know when the first presentations are going to go off. And so I think that would be another one. I don't know if we want to jump towards that first before I kind of continue in building a deadline for this, but you need to know when presentations are starting so we can kind of start and so I can get everything finalized in this, and then we have a good target date as well for me to get everything finalized in terms of reporting and all that kind of stuff too. So if we can do a verbal share of what those might be for the next like 2 weeks, that would be great. Can we just do a quick popcorn, maybe start with?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, so I think you can see mine on the calendar that Alex shared, but my first info session.
Go ahead.
My first info session is October 8th.
October 8th, okay.
Yeah, that's my earliest one.
Okay, so Philly starts October 8th. How about New York? I actually probably just need to know the first date. I don't need to know all of them, but the first one.
Sorry, we're likely to start October 7th. Would be the earliest date that we'd have one.
Okay, great. Martina?
My first presentation is next Wednesday, so October 2nd. But I did our high school class of records already.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Okay, and then I guess we'll find out from Vishay whenever she gets back. And then and Barrier's joining late, or we have to connect with them separately?
They should be here on the call today. If they don't make it on this one, I'll follow up via email to them and to Vishay. Okay,
sounds good. So Boston's all set with theirs. For everybody else, I would love to say Wednesday end of day. If that's too hard of a deadline for you, let me know what might work. I would say the very, very latest would be Friday, but I would love them to all be in by Wednesday if you haven't done it. Does that work? Yep. Okay, awesome.
And is that end of day East Coast or West Coast?
End of day West Coast.
Okay.
So then that way on Thursday,
cool.
I can pull all the names and the IDs and throw them right in there. Perfect.
So then would we want to wait to test until Thursday?
No, that's fine. They can just test with the two dummy records that are in there right now. That unknown one will stay for all the sites in case you are working with community-based organizations and you don't have their records in there. We can go ahead once those students are put in there, we can work after the fact to get their actual high school record in there, especially if they're not a recurring referral partner. So that unknown option, so right now everybody should see a SOAR high school and then unknown. Unknown will stay there as a default for anyone who doesn't have their high school in there. If they're coming in through a CBO or something like that. Okay, now I don't remember where I was leaving off with. Oh yeah, so get these in by Wednesday if possible. If you're having any difficulty, just reach out and let me know. And we can go from there. Any questions about the high school class of records? All right. And then also a reminder too, to get your presentations up in the calendar if you haven't already. And then I guess check in with Alex if you can't get in. I think she's the main holder of that, the permissions on that particular calendar itself.
Yeah, so far I don't see any entries, but I don't know if it's, I don't know why. So I heard you say, Tola, that you added yours and I don't see it on here, but maybe we can troubleshoot that separately.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go into a couple of things regarding kind of fields and tracking systems that I put in place with the data that's coming in through the online application and just you being able to kind of monitor what's going on with all the different students. And so what I've done is I've created a couple of fields on the student contact record. So once students start filling out their application and they do a save and resume, or they actually completely submit it, we'll have some fields start to populate into the contact record. And so the first thing I wanted to show you was on the student contract. So on this test record that I've done, in this section called Other Sophomore Application Information, let me go ahead and also bump up the text on here so it makes it easier. I have added the fields that we put into the, not only the fields that we put into the application that we are starting to talk about, so the names of the relatives in Summer Search, how you heard about Summer Search, if it's a person, what their name is, but we've got the short answers flowing directly into the contact record. We've got the date the application was created, the date it was submitted, and then some, and actually I'm gonna go over this in a second, the documentation pieces. But let me go actually into the record this actually applies to, because it's not this one. Oh, let me go over here. There's actually a link to, when you go to the, pardon me for a second, there's actually a link to the signed application itself. So who is this I'm looking at? Okay, sorry. So let's go into this record again. And so in that other sophomore application section, you'll see there's a link to the signed printable view of the application. So you will be able to click on this link and then get a download of all the responses on the application. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, I know I'm going kind of through this kind of fast, but it has everything that they've input. But when you get to the bottom, you'll have a record of the signature and the date and all that. So if you want to do a printout for a paper file, you can do that using this link. But then it also gives you kind of like that visual verification that you do have something. And so the one thing that I told Alex about last week that I discovered is that email signature verification link that we had talked about, that we wanted to monitor to see who's done that. That actually, there's actually no way on the back end to report on that. So Alex and I talked about just not even worrying about that. So once they've clicked submit and then have the signature, even if they don't click on that additional email link, we will still get this record. So we're going to consider that initial sign and submit an official like signed application, even without that like email click. So we're going to go ahead and just use that for now. If you have any like questions or concerns about that part, we can actually look at that piece on like the back end. We just can't report out on who actually clicks through in mass.
Do you mean like for the, once they get that email to confirm their signature, like even if they don't confirm, we still have it? Is that what you're saying?
Yep, exactly. So, so we're not even going to worry about whether or not they click through that email, because the minute they hit it, we get that, and then they get an email thing. I don't even know why they have that as a second step, and we can't report out on it. So we're just not going to worry about it. So we have this record, and you know, if we need to get an additional paper record, I mean, you know, we can talk about printing this out and having them do an extra signature for verification or something on the paper if needed or something. So that is what we're going to go for in terms of the signature piece.
Nice.
Okay, so that being said, we have these fields built in. The other field that we have built into is this application status field. And let me go back to this record. So you'll see on this test record, it says part 1 in progress. So what I've built into Salesforce is a process that will automatically update this application status field based on whatever's been submitted through the system, right? So this student started their application but hasn't completed it yet. And so the minute they've submitted part 1, the next status will be part 1 submitted. Okay, and then once you start ticking off their documentation, so let's say they have their academic documentation in from the RP in the system, then the application status field will automatically update to part 2 in progress. And then the minute they have all of their documentation checked off, so it would be income and the academic piece, then it will switch over to full application submitted. So then when we get to the reporting side, you'll be able to see a breakdown of all the applications by school, by status. So then you can use that report, export it, and then send that over to, you know, your RPs or whoever when you're trying to do follow-ups and things like that. So just to recap, then this field automatically updates based on, you know, what the fields that you're marking off. So as you receive the document uploads and you mark that academics have been received or that the income has been received and things like that, it'll automatically populate for you. So there's no need to do anything on your end. In terms of what that might look like on the reporting end, and I'm jumping around a little bit, but since I'm already kind of chatting about it, you'll see that it'll come out in this way, right? So you'll have the high schools listed here, and then the number of applications that are kind of in queue, and then where they are in that status. So I just built this field right now, so we only have one that says it's got a status, so it's not being applied to all the other test records that were in the system, but if you want to go in there and kind of test it out some more, you can add another record and then see how that kind of populates, or go ahead and complete like one of the other records that are already in there that you might not have like signed yet, and then see how that starts to work in the system. I added a link to this report in the notebook, so you should be able to play around with that and see how that works.
Siwan, how do you know who's applied? Like, I know you said you go into the visual contact, but like, how do you know, like, who do you just go run a report and just see the names, or how would you know?
Well, what do you mean by applied? Like what process?
Who submitted? Yeah, who submitted? Who started an application?
Right. So everyone here. So if I click, so when we're looking at this, right? So anyone that's in progress is they started an application, right? Yeah. And then there's another, if we look at all the different options for this field, it's part 1 in progress, part 1 submitted, right? So if you have someone that's in this part 1 submitted column that's not showing up here because I don't have anyone in that status yet, that means they've officially applied and part 1 is in the system being done, right? And then you have part 2 here. Let me actually show you the different pieces of it. And then when you get to part 2 in progress, that means they've already submitted their application and you've already started collecting some of the pieces of their verification. So that kind of like, it breaks it down in that way. So let me show you the different so we've got these 4 options, right? Part 1 in progress, that means they've started it, but they haven't finished it yet. Part 1 submitted, it's been finished, they hit submit, they did e-signature. That's part 1 submitted. Part 2 in progress is they've already submitted it and has at least 1 piece of documentation being marked as received. And then once both pieces, academics and incomes, are marked as received, they'll switch over into this full application submitted piece. So on that report, so on this report, you'll probably see 4 different categories. And then anyone, you'll be able to track who's in what process based on where they fall in.
And so would you click the number, Siwan? Like if you want to see a list of student names,
click
how
show
would you get to that?
And then you can see under show details, anyone who falls in this blank. I mean, anyone in that blank field right now, since those were created before I had this field, they're showing up blank. But if we go down to, where is it? Application in progress. So this number 1, you'll see that it's this student right here. It'll be cleaner once we kind of, once everybody's kind of in a spot where they actually have something happening, or actually have that piece updated on their record. So you'll be able to clearly see it, and then it comes out in the export with that status next to their name. So you can filter and export just those names to send out to your RPs. And then if you scroll through, and you can see all the different fields, I have here their name, their address, their race, their gender, all that kind of stuff, their parent. As of right now, I only put their parent 1, and then short answers, and then a link to the, the application, if it's been signed, and then like whether or not the documentation has been submitted, all that kind of stuff. So that's all kind of there. So you can sort and filter on your own if you wanted to do additional formatting, if you wanted to send that out to your RPs. So the one thing I do want to call out though, and it's a discussion item that's also listed below in the process, is that the status here of submitted is completely different than whether or not the application is complete, right? So they've submitted it, but whatever you deem as complete might not necessarily be there if they like leave off or if they leave fields blank in the system. And so we can, there's that application completed field that we had built out last year. to determine whether or not someone was complete, and we can kind of look at those fields and we can keep those fields if you want to determine whether or not something is complete, or we can add additional like characteristics or categories to that if you feel like you need to. Do you feel like you want to discuss that now, or should we save that for later?
Like defining what a complete application is this year?
Right. And I can tell you what was used last year, if that's helpful. And if everybody feels that that's fine, then we can just go with that. And so what I have here is that it was marked as complete if that you have verified, their income was verified. So basically they received income, you received income documentation, you received academic documentation, so both their 9th and their 10th grade. So not just anything, but just both 9th and 10th grade pieces. They met the age requirement. You got their signature, and you got short answer responses.
Yeah, that works.
That works for New York.
That works for me too in the North Bay.
Oh, hey, Denaciano. Boston?
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, if that works, what we have already basically covers what a complete application is, because you've got the income, academics, the age we automatically calculate in there, and with the online application, the short answer is required as well as the parent guardian signature is required. I guess the one thing that you might want to talk about, we might want to talk about later in the short answer piece in the discussion is whether or not you want to do some quality control on the type of short answer, on the short answer response in general, because as of right now, they can type in anything and it'll count as having the short answer being answered. But we can move on to that part. I guess we can say that into the discussion section.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions about, I guess, the application status before we move on to the next part? And then the other thing too, that you don't have to have an answer for exactly at this point in time, but we can talk about it on like maybe in the October call, is whether or not you feel like you want a couple, or if you want any more statuses added to this. So like the things that come to mind to me are, if you want to also use this as a way to mark who you want to call forward to an interview or who you're not, or something like that. So that way you can filter and do some additional like reporting and sorting later. So this could also be another way that you could use this potentially, or we build out another field to capture that as well. So just want to keep that in mind too, as we're kind of thinking through the process beyond the application piece. And then this will probably help with like follow up too after you receive everything, and being able to mark and keep track of who's in the pipeline.
Martina, were you saying something?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Thought I heard a voice before Ron Swan was speaking. I made a note about that, Ron Swan, in our October agenda to come back about staff fields.
Okay, I'm going to take a pause because I've been talking and just want anyone to chime in. They have just any other general thoughts or questions or concerns before I move into the document upload piece. Also giving my voice a break. Okay, are we ready for documents?
Yeah, it looks great.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so last Friday was kind of like a whirlwind for me. And I have created a form to do a document upload. And my mind is blanking out on me. Alex, can you confirm whether or not this link got sent out? I don't remember. I'm having like memory lapse in terms of whether or not this went out to everybody or not.
No, I think you just sent it to me. And we were gonna walk over it, through it with the
perfect.
cohort.
Thank you for the reminder. So I have built out a form for the document upload. So you can ignore the comment on the one follow-up piece that we put in the one Word document about do this via email only. But we have this ready to go to test. I can put a link to this in the notebook so everyone can try it, and you can try it via phone also. But it is for students to start uploading their documentation in the system. So they'll just have to enter the identifying information in there so that we know who to attach the documentation record to. So we're basically doing a match via like birthday, email, and phone number. So a combination of those things. Let me make this a little bit bigger as well. So the text that I have here is basically mirroring the text that was in review from the email reminders. And I can update this language based on however we update the language for the email reminders as well. So we have this sample form link here, which is the same one that's linked to in the email text, and that can be updated as well. We'll just make everything parallel. The only question here is whether or not there are items here that we want to call out in terms of academics for students if we don't get an RP transcript and a report card. And if not, I can just omit that as well, and if they have questions, they can reach out. But then when they get down here, they have the option to just choose their file and then upload like whatever. And then they can upload multiple things here. And so what will happen when they do that is it will go into a document record on the student. So we'll go back to our Boston application. So they'll have a document record here that says application documentation submitted via form assembly. And then you'll have both pieces living in here. And then from here, you will click on it to look at it to make sure it's the right thing. And then after that, you go to back to the contact record and mark that it's been received if it's the right piece. And so, like we mentioned before, like or I hope I did, or at least and other conversations, we didn't want to make this an automatic like checkbox of yes, we got their income documentation or their academic documentation, because I'm sure you've probably all experienced it, that sometimes they don't give you the right thing, or there needs to be more submitted besides just the one form. So this is the place where you'll have to do the manual update of the student record after you have reviewed what they've submitted. I haven't gotten to this step yet, but I will also build an accompanying report that will have a list of who has submitted documentation, so you can just go directly, click on the links to look at what they've submitted, and then you can go back onto like another screen and then mark as well. So that's that piece of this process of the documentation and verification piece and record marking is still in process. So I'm gonna pause for questions.
Hey, so I had a question. So is there any, do we plan to include any language about why we are asking for the financial documents? The reason why I asked that, just thinking about parents or caregivers who are not familiar with Summer Search, so just like sending those documents, just kind of giving that information might create a little bit more comfort. So I wanted to see if we could add some language if it's not already there. Whoa.
I feel like we have something along those lines somewhere already, maybe. And Alex, you can chime in I mean, I can't recall. I know we have something embedded somewhere, right?
There is some language in the broader application, but I don't think it could hurt to reiterate. What language would you propose, Alfonso? And I can just type as you talk, and then we can plug it in. And this could be collective too. It doesn't have to be just you.
Yeah, I guess for me, just thinking about like, hey, this information is used, whether, because I know sometimes when parents have asked, we just kind of saying like, this allows for us to just, check with eligibility, just because, so something around just like, this allows for us to see if you're eligible for the program. Yep, there it is. The following information is used to determine eligibility for Summer Search and will not be shared outside of Summer Search. Yeah, so that language, if that could be somewhere at the beginning of where we right where we ask for that information, I think that would be really good.
So if you look in the actual paper application from last year from AY19, under, I think it's page 5 of like parent, guardian information and permission, there's just a little note in italics that we could probably add, just copy and paste, and then add that into the form assembly form where people upload the income
right.
Yep, it shouldn't be a problem to add that.
And maybe we can also add it to the email as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like at least put it on that space right before, they get to the link to do the upload, and or even on the next steps piece. So I'm just trying to scroll through the application to see if I can grab it, but my connection here. Oh, right here. I see it.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
Feel free to white out.
Okay, cool. So Ron, we'll update that in form assembly, and I'll update it in the language for the email.
Sounds good.
Thank
so
you.
For here, I think there's another. I have this here too. Okay, we can refine this a little bit later. If you want, I can drop this into a Word doc, and then we can play with the language too, if that makes sense. Unless we just you want to just do like one pass that goes in the email, and then I'll just paste it into this version of it too. I can do either way.
Yeah, why don't I make the update in the Word version, Ron, and send it to you, and you can integrate here. That sounds good.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, any other questions or comments or things about the upload form?
This looks
the
amazing.
Upload form, yes, I agree with that too, that sentiment. The upload form is within the application, so it's like on the if you click through, it's on the later parts, right?
So I have it, so here, let me go to this other part. So on the form, so once they submit part 1, this, is it this one? I mean the right thing? Sorry. On the form, it's on the part 1 itself, it's not embedded in the form, but there is this like confirmation page message. You can kind of see it here. Thank you for submitting, blah, 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 blah. There will be a link right here that links directly to that upload form.
Yeah. Can we make it like bigger? Like a bigger text there so they know that's the link, or is it going to be like exactly how it is right there?
I don't know that. Can I make it bigger? I don't think I can make it bigger.
Maybe
it'll also go in the email too.
Yeah.
Right, Ron?
Okay.
It's also in all the follow-up emails.
It's also go in the email as well. So this, I mean, I'm assuming that the chances are of a student and parent doing this immediately after the application is probably really low, because they'll have to go and find everything, unless they're that motivated to do it, that they're going to get everything and just finish it out. Who knows? But it's there, but then it'll also go out in the email as well. In terms of formatting it to make it bigger, or just like, you know, at least putting a box around it or something just to highlight that this is the place that they can go. I can work on getting that done. Yeah.
Cool.
The question is, well, not the question is, but then, no, never mind. We're requiring email based on everybody's responses on the fields and questions. We're requiring email from everyone anyway, so everyone will get this via email. The link too, if you, let's say you need it separately to text, the link is available. You can just grab the link and just send it via text too, and that works as well. So let's say, you know, they say, oh, I've never got the email, then you can just, you know, we'll have like a list of links, and in a subsequent FAQ document, you'll see it in a little bit later, but we'll talk about that later.
Got it.
And we can, you know,
perfect.
If you need to do that, like separate from email, you'll have those available to send out to students.
Rank Swan, do you think it would be like or anybody on this call, do you all think it would be too confusing to have where it says step 2, the child must submit verification of your family's income, and then putting right after that, like use the link below to submit that information, and then the paragraph continues, and then again it repeats it again, like you can use this link. Just if they're looking and they're reading and they're clicking, like doing it quickly, they can just they might say that, I'm like, okay, I'll come back and go to this link later.
Right.
But if you think that's too much, maybe not. But that could be an easy way to kind of do it. I think what Tolu's suggestion, and not do it.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. I mean,
and also,
there's so much text. Yeah, like you said, like there's so much text, they could easily, you know, miss it or like whatever. And I think that, I totally agree, that's fine.
Another idea too is, I don't know if this is just getting too much into the weeds of it, but like where it says step 2, your child must submit verification, maybe put like you/your child, because maybe they think that they have to give the stuff to the kid if they don't read the rest. And so like it could be like actually you or like the child, so you can do it right now. Yeah. Right. You or your child must submit. You can do it right now at this link by clicking this link. Oops. Or later.
Sorry, there we go.
But I can update that.
We can also make sure that in the email reminders too, that it says the same thing kind of like on the parent and the child ones, you or your child, or you or your child, or whatever. So yeah, we can definitely modify that as needed. Yeah, I mean, like this thank you page is, I'm sure will, like if y'all have time to maybe fill out another version of it, or, you know, another test, you can actually see what it looks like. I mean, I already think this is so much text for a confirmation page that they'll be like, whoa, right? So, you know, maybe there's a way that we can kind of just make it more succinct or something like that, because they are going to receive it over email as well, too. So we can kind of, yeah, we can, you know, accommodate whatever makes sense.
I was looking also, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead in the agenda, but I was looking at the draft language for emails, and you might have already said this earlier too, but I think here it says that we're having families like email the stuff. Are we going to switch that to switch that?
We have to update it all. Yeah, like I said, I was working on the upload form on like Friday, and so we hadn't had a chance to kind of like sync up everything. So I just updated it on like the process notification part on form assembly, but we hadn't updated it all here on the email yet.
Oh, no worries. I was just double checking, but it looks good.
No worries. Otherwise. But thank you for flagging. Okay. Any other thoughts about the document upload piece?
I was worried about having the sample form be on a SharePoint link, but I tested it out on like in Google and all like other things, and it came up fine. I've had students complain about stuff being shared through SharePoint. They don't like, I don't know, or like but this seems to have no issues because of whatever permissions, but it seems good.
Yeah, I mean, so long as SharePoint doesn't become weird and change things like making links expire like it did, whatever. I mean, I think as long as we create it as a public link, it should be completely fine. So, but I mean, I think if we're worried about that, we can see if we can get it like externally hosted, like at least maybe on like the SummerSource website or something like that, but I'm not sure what our capacity for that is anymore. So
Google Drive.
Oh yeah, yeah, that could work as well.
I could put it on my Google Drive and share publicly just as a precaution, especially for that reason that there's a limit. There's like a term limit on accessing some SharePoint files to make sure.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, since we're here, are there thoughts about making a list of acceptable items for like the academic documentation, or should we just leave that off in general?
Could you ask that question again?
So in this list of acceptable documentation, like we have clear guidelines for income. I don't have anything for academics. Do we want to put some guidelines out there or just not even worry about it?
Actually, we'll have some students that will be applying from non-partner high schools. So actually it could be useful just to list like, you know, official transcript or student permanent record is what New York City students use. And then like a copy of a 10th grade report card or progress report would actually be helpful in that email.
Okay, so, whoops. Okay, one more time.
And Roxanne, for this, yeah, just clarifying, like whatever text is in this has to be universal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we just have to choose language that is like makes sense across.
So I'm just going to put transcript for now, and then 10th grade progress report.
Yep.
Well, there's more than one thing, right? Because you need a 9th grade and a 10th grade. So should it be we need this specifically, like?
Transcript would.
Yeah, well, usually the transcript will include 9th grade and then up to 10th grade, and then the 10th grade will cover if there are any, just the period between like, you know, summer and winter when we're actually interviewing students.
Right. Okay, how about, should we just get a list from each site and then we'll get a language, pull together the language, right language for this, or what's the universal, I guess, I take that back. Since it has to be universal.
This works, what it has right there, it works perfectly fine. Like 9th grade transcript and then 10th grade progress report or 10th grade report card.
Yeah, agreed. I would just I would actually do report card / progress report or in whatever order, just so they know there's an option for either. But this works for Boston the way that it's written right now.
Okay, so this isn't the list of accepted items. Is that we need this, right? Please submit the following. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we good?
Yes.
Okay. Save. Okay. I'll put this link in the notebook for everybody to test. Try it from your phones if you have a chance, just to see what that looks like as well. And then we should be good. Again, and like I said, I will work on getting that report set up for this. Okay. Okay, last thing for me, at least for the Salesforce side of it. And
you're doing great, Rank So On. This is awesome, by the way.
Thank you. So we've got this initial report, which is the only one that I built for now. We'll have the document report come up. What I will also try to do as we kind of go through the season and as we kind of start is to also try to build out a dashboard for you all as well. So you can kind of see everything in one snapshot and have the reports accessible on the dashboard in like one accessible place. So we'll kind of work on this iteratively and slowly together. I know this is coming up later, but do we know when the October call is? Going to be earlier in the month or later in the month?
hasn't been scheduled yet, but I was thinking probably earlier, just given that we'll likely have things to talk about regarding the application.
Sounds good. That works, and then we can kind of like go over this as the season, or as we start to progress through it all, especially with the office hours and stuff. And you know, if there are more reporting needs or whatever, we can kind of like work through that, what that looks like, and how the dashboard can be useful for everybody in that space too. Okay. Oh, the one last note too. When the applications are sent over from Form Assembly into Salesforce, what it does is, because I'm the one that created the process and I'm the Form Assembly owner, it makes all of the account and the contact owners meet. And so that's not helpful for you because that means you guys can't see it. So what I'm going to do for each site for right now is once I'm going to work on a process to change the owner to each of the outreach leads for each site for now so that everybody can see it. And then from there, you can determine the process of assigning like the high schools or whatever to each individual staff member, if it's going to be like a high school staff member, high school lead, or like whatever that is. So as of now, I'm just like for the people I can see on screen right now. So in New York, all of the New York applications that are going to come through are going to be assigned to Bethany. All of the Philly ones are going to be assigned to Tolu. All of the Boston ones are going to be assigned to Martina. And after that initial assignment gets in there, you can determine from there how to reassign to other owners if you need to, or you can leave them as is until you actually go through interviews and enrollment. So it's up to you to determine how you want to do that. So just kind of a flag for yourselves in terms of like ownership of the individual applications that come through.
Works.
All right. Okay, and with that, I think I am done talking for a little bit.
Yay, Raghuan. We got through all the things you and I talked about for that section.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, as is probably evident, Roxanne's been working really hard on this and figuring out how to customize Salesforce for everybody to meet your needs. So thank you, Roxanne.
You're welcome.
Okay, we've been on the phone for almost an hour. Does anyone need anything? A bathroom break, water?
Yeah, a quick one.
All right, let's reconvene at 3:55.
Thanks so much, Rongswan. I wrote that note oh no, about the uploads for the financial form, and so to see that within 24 hours, because it was the weekend, we're able to have it. I don't know, just the amount of jubilation, joy, stress relief has been amazing. So thank you so much for devoting so much time to it. Really, really appreciate it.
No worries. I mean, I saw that and I was like, oh, and I was thinking about what, I was like, okay, I'm going to spend, I told Alex, I was like, I'm going to spend half an hour to see if I can figure this out. And if it's going to take me forever and, and kind of detract from the main other things. And I'm like, no, it was fine. So we're
awesome. Well, appreciate it so much. It's saves hours and hours of work. So you're a real hero.
No worries. Thank you.
It also saves some paper cuts.
I will be back.
Thank you.
Yeah. Lots of paper cuts.
All right, paper.
Less workman's comp.
Okay, see you guys in a couple of minutes.
What time did you say?
5 minutes. So.
Oh, okay.
3:57.
Okay.
I don't got one either. I don't even have an iPhone. It goes off to someone else. Avery, do you have an iPhone charger? You have what? You use that right now? Those are simple vans. What do you mean by drift? Well, I got one. You don't get to see the vans. You just hate it. You said you went to Foot Locker. They sold those at Foot Locker? Yeah. And they sell these things at Foot Locker. I'm just disappointed. What's wrong with these? Nothing. He's straight fire. Yo, if you would have put these on instead of the little All-Stars, the little Converses, what? The ladies were like, okay, you got a little drip on. But instead, you come in looking like this.
Whoops.
You don't have to be working at the Foot Locker or at Popeyes. If you work at the Popeyes, I want to see that chicken sandwich. You know we got it nowhere.
Chicken sandwich.
Wait, who is talking about the chicken sandwich? Have you had it?
Yeah.
That's Toad, I think.
Is that you, Tolu? Have you tried
Making
it
us
yet?
all hungry.
So,
Have you tried
sorry. Yeah, no, I'm talking to a mentee right now. He's saying he's gonna work at Popeyes, and I was like, "You better let me have the chicken sandwich." He's saying it's not gonna be there, but they definitely do have it in the back. I have not tried it, but Legend has it. Every bite is crispy. It's on a grilled bun. Legend has it. The bun melts in your mouth. It's crazy. Even the pickle tastes like chicken.
What are you talking about?
The
Popeyes chicken sandwich.
Ah.
That's impossible to get. That like every store sells out of.
Interesting. I should try it. There's a couple Popeyes. There's one, actually not one too far.
Thing was still recorded.
Oh, is it really?
That's true. Everyone else watching this is going to hear about the sandwich. We're an advertisement.
Tolu, Alex from your office says hi, because she said you had mentioned to say hi to me, but she says hi back to you, because I said I was on a phone call with you.
Oh, okay. Can you please tell her I respectfully declined the hi and will not be returning it.
Will do. Will do.
Okay, let's see. I think we can start. We have Boston. Are you guys back? Wait, is it time? Yeah, it is. Okay. I think I need input from the group about. So we have two more things to do next. One is to circle up about a couple language things on the application itself. That shouldn't take too long, maybe 6 minutes is my guess. And then we have a whole bucket of process-related things, mostly around like the other processes to help facilitate the online application besides or in addition to these reminder emails. So like what we haven't gotten into yet is like, what is every site's approach with texting? What is every site's approach with parent mailing? Like, what are the other things that are being done to help support the online application?
To do a check-in with Alba.
Okay, Roxanne is eating, but she's here on audio. Okay. All right, so maybe we can do the application language part first, because I think that will be quicker. So this came from some great observations and thoughts that Alfonso had, and he and I had a conversation, and I circled back with Rogsimon, and we identified a couple places to bring back to the cohort for your input before making a decision. So one was around the length of time. So y'all probably noticed in the sample application, there's on the very first page, it says like, you can expect this application to take you X amount of time to complete. And what's really cool is that Salesforce records the amount of time it takes to walk through the application. So right now, based on all of us who...
Form assembly.
Oh, sorry. Form assembly. Thanks, Markson. Form assembly gives us an estimate of how long it takes, and so far it has given us one. It's like 43 minutes was the average, but it's a little bit off, right? Because we're not fully doing the application, and we're also like pausing to make notes and edits. But what's going to happen is that when the beta testers go through the application, we'll have probably a more accurate sense of how long it takes. But what I wasn't sure is how to account for the short answer prompt, knowing that every student takes a little bit of a different approach to that. So wondered if we should say something like, this application is going to take you X amount of time to complete plus an estimated 30 additional minutes for the short answer question, or like not including the time it takes you to write your short answer. So yeah, I just wanted input about, I think another thing we thought about was please allow 30 minutes to reflect and respond to the short answer section, just to give some like parameters to students around the short answer response. Just a welcome thought here about that.
My first preference would be to not put a time on the short response. And to say like the total application could take this amount of time, not including the time for your short response. And my reasoning for that is, unless we're stating somewhere that it's not like a timed, like once you get to the short response, you have X, that could come off as you have X amount of time to type it in. And I wouldn't want to like have somebody like misread that and try and like rush through it.
Martina, that makes me think about something else related that I talked about with Alfonso and Ranksong, which was the language on the actual short answer prompt on that page, like adding something like how we had in our 2018 paper application of like, I think it said something like a couple, like your short answer response should be around like a minimum of, like setting a minimum of 4 to 6 sentences for each answer, and just being a little more prescriptive in like the length rather than the time it takes, knowing that every student takes a different time. And then also in form assembly, there's currently a 5,000 character maximum, which is pretty long. Like 400 characters is like 4 paragraphs, so 5,000 is like a ton. So we could also modify the max, or can we set a minimum one instead of a max? Is that an option?
I was just checking that, and you can't set a minimum. You can only set a maximum. So like, to my point about, quality control, can you, if someone just types in like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, you won't know, as our thing, like we won't know until we look at it. And unfortunately there isn't, it only allows, like for the validation I'm looking at right now, it only allows for us to look at the minimum limited length of characters or words is what we can do. Hold on, let me actually look at this one, see if there's a custom. Yeah, it only gives us a maximum. There is no minimum.
Okay.
Alex, I like your idea about like kind of like setting like the quality parameters though. Like I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm talking to students in a presentation about the short response, I tell them like verbatim, like it should be a paragraph per question, and that equals out to about 5 or 6 sentences. So I like the idea of giving those parameters.
Armani, were you going to say something different, or?
No, I was going to say something different. I was going to say, I guess I kind of forgot what I was going to say. That's why I didn't say anything. But
okay.
From what I think it was something along the lines of, like fearing putting like a time limit or putting a minimum, which it sounds like we can't do. I'm just thinking at our site we get students that will turn in a short answer response with like two sentences written. And it'll just be a conversation in the interview. Like it's not like every kid has that, but there are kids that have that, and they, I think we still want them. That's what I'm thinking. So I don't know if that was coherent.
So you're trying to be more inclusive? Is that what you're saying, Armani? Just like
yeah.
Like I get those students too. Some of them are more like vocal, like they can talk through more of the answer than actually like write it down. And like that's what we do. We mostly talk. We're not writing with them. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. That's exactly. Thinking like if they put like a 1 or 2 sentences, like we'll accept that and just still go through the interview with them, and it won't hurt their application. So I don't want to create more barriers. So I guess But it sounds like everything that you all are saying wouldn't create that situation. So they can still do that, and we can still follow up with them individually. Even if we do put a quality like in parentheses, like this is what you should do.
Mhm. So we could set an expectation of something to work toward more clearly, and not disqualify them if they don't respond, but more take that on a case by case basis.
Right. Like they can still type in ABCD, EFG, and still submit it. Because we don't. I think for me, my thing is I don't want a student to not be able to submit an application because they didn't do because I feel like beforehand the short answers were kind of like an extra thing. It's kind of like the income in the grades. Like students might fill out everything but not give us the short answer responses, and then we follow back up for that. So.
Well, just
we don't want that to be a barrier to submitting. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to say a flag for that last comment, though, Armani, is that right now we're requiring a response for the short answers. So
kids could. Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, no. So I'm just saying, like, that's not a possibility now. So do you think that making them required and they see that and they don't want to write anything, they end up like, no, I'm done, I'm out? Like, so I guess that's a question to you. Like, does that mean we should rethink requiring the short answer response? Or word it so that it's a little bit more inclusive of whatever it is that they're writing in. You know what I mean?
Can I say that I don't think that we should change the expectation that it is required, especially since we have a save and resume option. I guess my thing is like I want to be inclusive, but I also want to be fair. If there are 140 other students who all did a short response, I also don't want to, I don't know, like give a student a pass and they just completely skip it. Like I'm down to be flexible about like how many sentences they write, but I also want to be fair to like the total pool of applicants who did what they were supposed to do, I guess.
I wonder if we could hear from everyone on this, just to make sure every voice is represented and try to make a collective decision. So thanks for taking us off, Martina.
So what are we voting on right now?
What's our prompt? Yeah, I guess I'm wondering is, so what we've talked about so far is for total amount of time. Well, let's take one item at a time, and maybe everyone can just thumbs up or thumbs down. So first item is for amount of time at the very beginning of the application, saying this could take X amount of time, not including the time it will take to complete 2 short answer questions. That's like what I heard emerge out of this conversation. If you, if that sounds okay to you, thumbs up. If it doesn't, oh, hey, Martina.
Thumbs up.
Oh, hey, I see Chano now too. Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. I'm just scrolling through my video. Armani surfing. Okay, cool. New York's deliberating. You guys have a concern with that framing?
Yeah. New York, we're just sitting with putting any time limit down. Like, we do get that it will take some time. We want students to recognize that it will take some time, but just putting any numbers on anything for us just worries us that it will deter students from applying, seeing like, half an hour and then like another 45 minutes to an hour. Like, they just won't even start it, rather than like they start it and it takes them longer than they expect. But we actually still get an application from them.
Yeah, and then even thinking about like what we spoke about, Alex, about just like how it would be helpful planning wise, in regards to just like seeing that time and like the benefits of that. Just trying to sit with both of those right now. So that's kind of what we were talking about. Is just like sitting with the fact that for some students, seeing that time could be really helpful and allowing them to plan accordingly. And to others, it might not be it could potentially be something that's not helpful to them. So still working through it.
I'm fine either way. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate coming back to the purpose. Like, why would we even put that in there? And that is why, to like help students and families anticipate how long it's going to take so they can prepare for that and be in the right space to work on it. And if you feel like it's going to be a deterrent to students even starting it, then like I would want to defer to what you all think, especially because there is a save and resume feature, right? So they can always come back to it.
Maybe,
even though we want them to do it at one sitting if they can.
Maybe there's a way we can say that, like, if you don't have time to finish it now, come back to it. Just don't forget. Because I think this is one of the things that we had talked about potentially even taking off the application in the future, like the short answers. I remember that was like an idea swirling, like, is this a good way to test if kids are ready? So I guess I say that to say, like, if we make it something that they need, like, we're telling them they need to come back to, if they don't, it's not the end of the world.
And process-wise, how would that work, Ronson, if it wasn't required?
Well, I guess if it is required, but it's just something where it's like they can still get an interview. I don't know. I might be speaking out of my, like, I don't know if I heard to say that, to be honest, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Because I definitely feel what the folks in New York are saying, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is kind of new for us too, because usually with the outreach materials, there's like a national template, right, that all of you can modify. And while there are like parts of that are showing up in this application, like what's in the drop-down menu, this is new for us to have like one thing that we're all agreeing to with this application.
Can I?
Why don't we? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Well, first, I just want to make sure, Chano, if you didn't have any like thoughts from the Bay Area side, feel free to chime in before I have a couple of ideas that might kind of help for everybody, but I just wanted to make sure, Chano, you didn't have anything, or if Bradley's on the line, if you all didn't want to chime in from Bay Area perspective first.
I think for us, the short answer is going to be key, because we're piloting this next year, having sophomore reflections instead of interviews, and those would happen after we accept students. So I think the short answers would definitely be needed for us to be able to get to know the students a little bit better before we accept them.
Awesome. And so kind of the things that I was thinking based on what I've been hearing from everybody is that what if we took out the time? So we take out this part, right? And instead of putting the time, we can just put a quick bullet points. Like, these are the things that we will be asking you about: basic information about yourself, your address, and something else, and then a short answer section. So then they kind of like, oh, like I can fill out like my height, my weight, that's all easy stuff. You know, it's just general information about yourself. And then when we get to the short answer intro, we can put another like box that say, hey, if you know you need time, click the save and resume, and you can come back to it. So just a reminder that they can do that. I think that might help. And also another thing too is, would it also help, again, separate from this, or maybe even at the beginning, or maybe even during the presentations? These are the 2 questions we're going to be asking you as part of the application. You can think about it first before you start. So those are kind of like my ideas of like maybe how to help kind of like cover all the bases, if that makes sense.
This might be a good thing to test with the students. My feeling is, I think for each of our sites to have the question of like, did you even read this when you tested the application? Because I am curious how many students will read the text as opposed to just like jumping to the questions and start filling it out. So maybe like we could try to, I don't know, test, or just like informally ask some of the students here, like print out the application and ask like, would you even read this, or did you read this before you filled out your application last year? I don't know, just recognizing that we might be talking about it and no one is actually going to read it anyways.
True.
Could we just put in parentheses after each short response, like, please write at least a paragraph or 46 sentences or whatever the wording is?
Yeah, we can do that.
Or you should, or whatever. I don't particularly care about the wording, but maybe even if a student does skip the first, like the opening to the short responses, they still have like some kind of idea of what we're looking for.
Yeah, we can definitely add that. To Bethany's point about, are they even going to read this? I'm just showing you what a preview would look like on a cell phone. And so it is already a lot of text that they're kind of reading through. I mean, I don't know. For like high schoolers to kind of see this, like, you know, is it going to, let's see, when we get to this is a short answer intro that they would read through. Like, is this already like too much text to consume all at once, right? If they're doing it on their phone versus, you know, whatever. So.
I mean, this is a good point. We're going to have beta testing this week, so we can either we can try what you proposed, Ron Swan, and just see what the response is to that. So take out the specific time, but just explain a little bit about what's involved in the application, and then we can make that update right before the short answer box too, to just like reiterate the links of like the quality control, I guess, with the reminder about save and resume.
Right.
Roxanne, can we make, I mean, I know it's ideal to have it like completely finalized before we launch it. And we have talked about like iterating in real time. If there are like concerns about our instructions or the language, are those changes we can make once we've gone live with this?
Yeah, we definitely can.
Okay. Okay. That's reassuring to me, because then I'm thinking like, no decision we make right now is final. We can always change it again based on the feedback that we get.
Right. Since you all are here, just wondering too, do you see, I'm starting to just type whatever, and there's a character count. Oh, that happens at the bottom. Is that going to be a problem? Curious. If not, like I can remove the character like limit, but like, you know, like Alex said, this, you know, 5,000 is a lot. I don't know if people will tend to write more than that. But just, I did this in the thought that like, you know, I want to make sure we capture everything. I match this character limit to what the upload limit is on Salesforce. So that's all. And if you feel like we should just take it out, we can take that out. But I wonder if that is going to be scary for students to see on the bottom as they're writing something.
Yeah, you could take it out.
Okay.
I'll make a note of that. Okay. Bethany and Alfonso, were you guys going to say something to the group, or were you just?
We're just feeling like seeing, I haven't looked at the application on a phone yet, and seeing all of those words, the way it looks like on a mobile device, we're just talking about how it's going to deter, not deter students, but like we could see a lot of people just skipping the whole thing. So we're actually thinking that maybe for like testing or the first run, like less is more, like use the least amount of languages possible. And then if we feel like students need more of an explanation, like we're getting responses that are not, you know, thoughtful, then we could add stuff in later. But just looking at the one for the essay question, it seemed like a very verbose explanation for it.
Yeah, because I think even like there's like some information that we're like we know what us wanting to be like, what us being intentional about is like super helpful. But I also think that some students, I'm curious to see how it will land with some students. And that's what I'm like thinking about, like looking at these, what are the things that like really stick out that's like, all right, we need to have this there, versus things that would be additional or like helpful, but it's not necessarily something that has to be within like the language, you know, that's showing. So that's what we're talking through right now, just trying to figure that out. But yeah.
Yeah, it looks so different on this than like the paper application, because for this short answer in particular, like that we mostly pulled from the last application, and it's so sparse on that like Word version, but so condensed and like a lot here. What do others think about that? Is there an interest in the group in taking another pass at the dense parts of the language and suggesting edits?
I'm down to try to make this short answer introduction, like to send like a shorter version of what that could look like back down. Like individually, I can commit to doing that if that's something that we want to do. And like I can probably do that by tomorrow or the other day, but I'm not sure another way to do it.
And I think it would only be the short answer intro on the very first intro page, or the longest text, if I'm remembering right. So it's not a lot. It's just those two sections.
Yeah, me and Bethany said we can both take a look at it as well.
Okay.
And send over some edits also.
And we're gonna ask some students.
And ask some students also.
Cool. Okay. Awesome. That'd be great. Okay. Do you need anything from me to do that, or are you going to just look at the online application? Bethany and Alfonso, do you all just want to look at the online application to provide your edits, or do you want me to drop the language into a Word document?
Hello?
Yep.
Yes. Yes. We can just look at it online.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks to you two and Armani for taking a look at that. And you could just email your edits to me and Roxy1. Does that work for you, Roxy1?
Yeah, totally fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I think in our time remaining, we should figure out how we want to continue this conversation, or whether we need to talk about things. The next parts are also like coming up to a consensus about some language, so it might take us longer than the couple minutes that we have left. And then there's the process discussions, but I think those can wait until, if I was thinking maybe I could aim to schedule our outreach cohort call that week where you all are the end of the week that you're all having presentations, that second week of October, and we could check in on how they're going, check in on that online application. But I also recognize that might be a crazy week because it is a week that you're starting presentations. But if we timed it that way, we could still talk about the like overall process to make sure that students are completing their online applications. So what is the question? What is the question, or what is the need? I guess we need more time. We need more time. And I don't know if we just do that in an email for some of these things. Or actually you could just weigh in on the notebook, like for these outstanding language questions, you can weigh in with your preference in the notebook, and then I can find time for us to talk about the process questions as part of our October cohort call. Is that cool? Thumbs from Martina.
I get some thumbs up, but I'm kind of confused about what language you're talking about.
There's a couple of things that Alfonso and I talked through together that we wanted to bring to the cohort that are in the notebook here that we're not going to get to today, but maybe everybody can, I'll drop in the initials for every site, and you can just like respond with your thoughts, because I think they're pretty clear in the notes, if that's okay. I'll make sure they are clear too. I'll double check the language, make sure they're really clear. Okay, so then I will double check the language here. If you all can weigh in with your thoughts. And then you can expect an email from me for the beta testers once RUNX1 can integrate that at 6 from our call today. Let's see what else. Next steps. I'll send a doodle poll for our October call. I know that this is really driven by Roxu and I created this agenda. Are there questions or like needs that are coming up around the online application that we haven't addressed that we need to? I know we have the office hours this week. Does everyone feel looped in and like empowered? Yes.
Sorry. Where can I'm trying to catch up a little bit in terms of the language that we're going to cover on the future thing. Is that the stuff that's in the blue and red in the outreach notebook for today's agenda? And the stuff that's highlighted? Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I had a question. So I spoke with Matt, and he brought to my attention about just like there was some language that was supposed to be added to provide a disclaimer related to sizing for like, because it's really binary, and just wanted to make sure being inclusive. Was that something that was added already?
Should be. Let me double check.
Yeah.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. And then do you, Alex, do you want me to share what Matt said related to just like the swimming, or do you want me to add it to the notes?
You can add it to the notes.
Okay, that works. Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, based on everybody's outreach time, so the first one coming up is next week in Boston. So it seems like we're tracking okay with the online application. If we do the beta testing as we planned and aim to wrap it up and have it ready to go live Friday, that still works with everybody's presentations, which is awesome.
One thing really quickly. We're not going to get a chance to talk about it now, but I do want to highlight the FAQs document that I do want to start to build up. And I think this can be a big joint one that we all kind of like pull into. So maybe we can just start we can start a document, and questions can start to come from you of things that you will anticipate that your staff will ask and that students might ask. And then we can build that out and then turn that into a PDF that we can also link as part of the application or as part of like the help text and in the reminder emails, and or have it on hand for staff to use as well. And then what my hope was to get any questions or concerns that come up in the testers to add their questions into that document too. So things will always come up. And so I think, and especially like questions that we never anticipated. So I just wanted to bring that up too, that I want to start to have this as a resource that starts to kind of like live and grow as we kind of continue the process, because you'll probably get questions from other people as well, and people doing presentations, unless you all are just doing presentations yourself. But like, you can also have it in your hand, you know, in your back pocket as you're out there with, you know, doing the things with sites, or even for RPs if they think they need it too. So I would suggest, unless you think we need to, one targeted one for students versus RPs versus like staff, but I was initially just thinking of just making one big document for now. Does that work for everybody? At least we'll just start with that and then go from there. Awesome. So I'll get one started. I'll link it in the notebook too, and then just throw the questions in there, and then we'll start building from there.
That sounds good, Ron. I made a note about that in here too.
Awesome.
And I'll update this notebook with the to-dos we just talked about, so you have a written record, because I know there's a lot of moving parts. Thanks, everyone. I know this is like the part that can feel like a bit of a slog, like when we're trying to iron out these little things, but we're almost there, and our students are almost going to have an online application this year, thanks to all of you. All right. Anything else from anyone?
Go team.
Okay.
For sure.
Thanks, Armani. Bye, everybody.
Take care.